Welcome to the 6th session of A Bridge Over Troubled Waters. This presentation is for parents, caregivers and professionals, especially those who are working with children and teenagers who are stressed and or distressed, thus causing concern for adults in their life, whether caregivers, friends of the family or professionals. This is the 6th session. There are 10 sessions, all free and available through Facebook. This session, the 6th session, is all about praise and understanding. I hope you enjoy it. Praise and understanding are what make us shine. It doesn't matter if we're 4 years old, 14 years old, 40 years old or 104 years old. People have asked me, can you overpraise? And I believe the answer is a clear no. Praise has to be sincere and truthful. Do not tell someone that they did something amazingly when they didn't. But give honest praise freely. This is, after all, how your children learn to praise and understand others. When your child, your partner, the checkout girl and the pump attendant get it right, tell them. Your children see this, and they then feel more comfortable with both receiving and giving praise. Children are what they live with. If children live with criticism, they learn to condemn. If children live with hostility, they learn to fight. If children live with ridicule, they learn to be shy. If children live with shame, they learn to feel guilt. If children live with tolerance, they learn to be patient. If children live with encouragement, they learn to have confidence. If children live with praise, they learn to appreciate. If children live with fairness, they learn justice. If children live with security, they learn to have faith. If children live with approval, they learn to like themselves. And if children live with acceptance and friendship, they learn to find love in the world. And it really is as simple as that. Praise, the role of praise. Children and teens respond well to the PIR, Positive Incident Report. Work at setting things up for your young person where they get praise. Always accentuate the positive. Don't go overboard, but always look for positive stuff to praise. Never praise them for bad or unacceptable behaviour. Build trust with your praise. It is really worthwhile to make a list of things you can and should praise your young person about. This way you are more likely to do it as soon as you see it. This is why praise is so important. You remember that right at the beginning of the program we talked about self-esteem and confidence. Well, this chart here is about the 4 steps to productivity and self-esteem and confidence. So it starts with I create. I decide to start something. I do it. I act it out. I complete it. I finish it. I get acknowledgement, lots of good praise for what I've done. And then I've got progress. I will now go on to try something new again, maybe something even harder. So you see, if I don't get the praise and the acknowledgement, that sense of pride and acceptance, then I will probably not go on to bigger and better things. Also, if it never or hardly ever happens, then slowly my self-esteem will shrivel up and eventually die. In fact, motivation flags and learning only becomes a negative experience and may be the prelude to burnout and mental health issues. Ngaire and Paul's story. Ngaire got to thinking about all the times that Pete had witnessed her and her ex arguing. She remembered a TV advert some years ago of a little boy in a high chair crying, a horrible argument going on. It was about how domestic violence affects children. She had never thought it was aimed at her. The penny dropped. Pete had been a darling baby, and he was still her darling, and she knew it was time for her to accept responsibility for not keeping him emotionally safe. If she wanted him to accept responsibility for his actions, so must she. She knew guilt would only make it harder. Instead, she needed to look at positive action. She looked at her actions. She spoke to Paul about how she wanted their household to be a violent-free home. She asked him to read the chapters in A Bridge Over Troubled Waters by Joy Sylvia about communication and how to deal with conflict appropriately. She wanted him to look at options for how their household could deal with issues, options where they could remain calm. When it came to the parenting styles, they were both shocked to find that they swapped from punitive parent to indulgent parent. One was yelling and being abusive out of frustration, and the other, subconsciously realizing it was over the top, tried to make amends by being super nice or turning a blind eye. Ngaire nor Paul could believe the mixed messages that they had been giving the kids. They talked about where their behaviours came from. Ngaire felt she had originally had no experience or education about how to handle conflict. When she got married, her ex took control, and then she reacted and it all escalated. Paul felt that he had just copied his dad, but times have changed. Men were no longer the complete boss. No one did what Paul said, just because he said it. He needed new tools too. Action they took. They got Megan to do up 3 coloured posters of the respect test. One went on the loo wall, one on the inside of the tea cupboard door, and the other on their bedroom mirror. Ngaire got a friend who was good at computer artwork to do up a heap of PIRs. She thought she would do some for Megan, who's 10, and Zach, who's 5. The following week, Paul popped one in Pete's, who's 15, rugby boot, for him to find later, for something he had seen him do that was good. What actually happened? Ngaire and Paul found their attitude and behaviour around conflict beginning to change, and they felt more self-respect. Paul was excited at the newfound respect he had for himself and was looking forward to his project around resolving conflict peacefully, without adrenaline-fueled aggression and posturing. Paul asked a few of the guys at work how they dealt with conflict in the home. Ngaire found the PIR that Paul had given to Pete pinned to Pete's notice board. It was a bit crumpled and had clearly been screwed up and then flattened out again. Paul thought a silent yes. Ngaire felt a glimmer of hope. She gave Paul a PIR of her own. With all this work and effort going into Pete, it was good that they had not forgotten the needs of Megan and Zach. These two were being a little better too. Remember, love equals time plus understanding, plus effort and attention, plus courage to be honest, all bound up with kindness. Walking your talk. If your words and action don't match up, you are in big trouble. People see you as a risk. They don't believe you and they lose trust in you. Say one thing and mean another at your own peril. You need to find a way through where your speech and actions measure up. My mum's phrase comes back to haunt me from time to time. If you haven't got something nice to say, keep your mouth closed. That is helpful in some situations. In others, you have to work hard to calmly and gently but honestly talk about what needs to be talked about. Remember, sitting down to do it and taking time are both helpful. I want you to think about what your child or your teenager sees when you communicate with them or when you communicate around them with other people. So this is how people take on information. 83% or round about there is by sight. It's what we actually see. 11% is from hearing what they are actually saying, and 6% is by other senses. People are likely to doubt what you say, but will believe what you do. Actions then do really speak louder than words. It is very much do as I do, not do as I say. And that is why, right at the beginning of the program, we talked about how important leading by example was. Some statistics that advertisers use are people respond to the physical clues that are given out more than the words that are spoken. 60 to 65% of messages are communicated through the gestures, postures, movement, eye contact, and facial expressions. Only 35% maximum of the message is likely to be in the words used. Non-verbal factors occur even in moments when a person is not consciously communicating, like doing the dishes or standing at the bus stop. Other people unconsciously reflect back a person's non-verbal messages. So if you are talking calmly but you are agitated, your children are going to respond back to you in an agitated way. We hope that this 6th session of Bridge Over Troubled Waters has provided you with more ideas about parenting positively and confidently, and how important it is for you to praise and understand your children and your teenagers. The 7th session is all about what works and problem solving. The 8th session is about when I think I might lose it and what I'm going to do about it. And then the 9th session is about contracts and rosters, and the 10th session is where we put it all together. For more information about this program and these sessions, simply check Facebook, Joy U Sylvia, or email joy@joysylvia1@gmail.com. If you found these sessions interesting and or useful, please do leave a comment, and please pass them on to your friends and family anywhere you think they might be useful. Thank you. Here are the 4 books that I currently have published. They're all available on Amazon, or you can go to my website if you wish to purchase them locally. So we have A Bridge Over Troubled Waters, a guide for managing tricky teenage behaviours. It is easy to follow and apply and has been designed to equip both the caregiver and the professional with effective strategies for the seemingly relentless onslaught of difficult and sometimes frightening behaviours caregivers and professionals have to manage in today's society. The diagrams, together with the insightful real-life stories of parents working through the material, bring about an attitude and belief that change is indeed possible. Say No to Bullying: Factors, Challenges and Strategies. This book helps the weak become strong and the supposedly tough become true heroes. This is a book about a nasty and vicious topic that will warm the cockles of your heart. It is amazingly easy to read and hard to put down. Whether the players in these intricate and often complex bullying situations are primary school aged children, teenagers, parents, work colleagues, staff, or residents in a rest home, this book explains how to deal with it and how to help the players grow, feel good about themselves and their actions, and find appropriate power. Dealing with difficult people, managing conflict, bloody-mindedness, and other intercommunicational difficulties at home and at work. Heaps of information, diagrams, and life stories to help you deal appropriately with and confidently with those difficult people in your life who misuse power, threaten, and/or play mind games. Project Alpha. This is an exciting New Zealand-based adventure mystery series for young teens, so about 10 years to 14 years old. The plot involves the kidnapping of the Project Alpha CEO, with the baddies intent on stealing 3 active satellites, disabling the worldwide GPS system, and generally attempting to take over the world. So the odds are heavily stacked against Jimmy and his band of oddball adults, including the FBI, NASA, Interpol, and several New Zealand Defence Force representatives. Jimmy's mission is to save the world and capture the bad guys. Jimmy's mum has sent him to stay with his Uncle Ben, an astrophysicist and computer games designer, who lives in a remote part of the West Coast Alpine region on the station that houses the observatory and the labs of Project Alpha. As an experienced social worker with a passion for personal and community development, I have particularly enjoyed the ability to weave narrative that can surreptitiously help young people deal with anxiety, difficult backgrounds, new situations, learn how to problem solve, and take appropriate self-responsibility.